Lesson 4.4, problem number 5. Okay, this time I have y equals 6 cosine times the quantity x plus pi over 6. Now, in this function, I have a c value. And when I have a c value, or a value that follows x, that means there's a phase shift. Okay, a phase shift is a horizontal shift left or right, and you can find the phase shift by calculating opposite c over b. Okay. Now, to graph this, we're still going to find the amplitude, the period, the phase shift, and the vertical shift. The amplitude is the absolute value of A. A is the number in front of cosine. So my amplitude is the absolute value of 6, which is equal to 6. Okay, the period is 2 pi divided by B. So I'm going to take 2 pi, divide it by B. B is the number in front of X. Since no number is given, that's actually the number 1. And 2 pi divided by 1 is 2 pi. Now, phase shift, or horizontal shift, can be calculated by taking opposite c over b. Okay, my c value is a positive pi over 6. So the opposite of that is negative pi over 6, all divided by b, and my b value is 1. So negative pi over 6 divided by 1 is negative pi over 6. We still do not have a vertical shift. Okay. Now, the phase shift is also where my curve is going to begin. So rather than my very first point being at 0, my very first point is going to be at negative pi divided by 6. I'm still going to graph 2 periods. There are still 3 significant points between the start and end of each period. Okay. Now, this is where the calculation period divided by 4 really comes in handy, because my period does not end at 2 pi. That is just the length between negative pi over 6 and this end value of the first cycle. Okay. So to plot the points on my x-axis, those values, I'm going to take the period and divide it by 4. So my period is 2 pi. When I divide that by 4, I get pi over 2. What this means is there is a distance of pi over 2 between each consecutive x value. Okay? So I'm going to start with my first point, negative pi over 6, and I'm going to add pi over 2. Now I need a common denominator, so I'm going to multiply numerator and denominator of pi over 2 by 3 to get 3 pi over 6. Now, those are equivalent. It's just now I have a denominator 6. So I'm going to add 3 pi over 6 to negative pi over 6 to get the next x value. So negative pi over 6 plus 3 pi over 6 is 2 pi over 6. And I'm going to continue adding 3 pi over 6. Then I have 5 pi over 6, 8 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6, 14 pi over 6, 17 pi over 6, 20 pi over 6. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need 9, so then I have 23 pi over 6. Okay. Now, these are the values for my x-axis. When I plot them, I need to simplify if possible. So I have negative pi over 6. 2 pi over 6 reduces to pi over 3. I have 5 pi over 6. 8 pi over 6 simplifies to 4 pi over 3. And I have 11 pi over 6. Now, just to double check, the length of one period, okay? So if the distance from negative pi over 6 to 11 pi over 6 is 12 pi over 6, and 12 pi divided by 6 is 2 pi, which again is the length of one period, okay? Now, if I continue, 14 pi over 6 reduces to 7 pi over 3. Okay, then I have 17 pi over 6. Okay, 20 pi over 6 reduces to 10 pi over 3. And I have 23 pi over 6. Okay, now this time I labeled my x-axis first, and now I'm going to put in my y-axis. Now remember, the y-axis falls where x is 0. And 0 falls between negative pi over 6 and pi over 3, but a little closer to negative pi over 6. So after I get my x-axis labeled, now I'm going to put in my y-axis, so I put in the appropriate spot. Good, so that's the approximate location of my y-axis. Okay, my amplitude is 6, so that means the maximum value of the curve will be at 6, and the minimum value will be at negative 6. Okay, cosine begins at a maximum. Now we will not be labeling anything on the y-axis because those are not my the points on my x-axis. So my first point is going to fall at negative pi over 6 at my maximum 6. My next point is at pi over 3, which is on the axis. 5 pi over 6 is at negative 6. 4 pi over 3 is on the axis. And 11 pi over 6 is at the maximum. Okay, this is one cosine curve, one period. Okay, my second period, I'm going to use a dotted line. Okay. And I have two periods of this cosine curve.